What's up, everybody? Welcome to Omnic Lab. This week, episode 96. I'm your host, Rob May, and we're a podcast that focuses on strategies in the game of Overwatch. We learn through trial and error in a lab-like format with scientific methods. So sometimes things get a little crazy, especially if it's just me and Andres around. But this week, we have yet another friend of the show who's been a repeat guest and a good friend of mine over the year, I guess, that we've known each other. We have PVPTwitch. What's up, PvP?
Hey, how you doing, man? Good to be
Great.
back.
Great to have you back. Yeah. And we have Andres from Georgia as the regular.
What's up? What's up? I'm back from my long travel sailing the seas. I've been playing a lot of Sea of Thieves this week. It's been very fun. I am in love with that game. And I'm sporting my Outlaws today because I'm very proud of them taking down the Dynasty.
Yeah, that's a really big win for them and a great strategic game to watch. Unless you want to just break down the strategy of saying Fletos was sat for 3 maps, so they threw. So there's always that. But, so why we have PvP... Wow, I can't talk this week. Why we have PvP here this week is we're going to be talking map mastery yet again. And we're going into the realm of KotH, or King of the Hill, or Control, depending on how you want to define it. And this week we're doing Lijiang Tower. So we're going to buckle up for coverage of the Garden, the Night Market, and the Control Center. So let's head over to China and talk about it this week. Before we do, we have a few announcements because we are 1 week away from our game night, which is March the 30th on Friday. I'm going to say it's going to be around 2 or 3 p.m. Eastern time is typically when the first people start filtering in to the channels and start grouping up, maybe even just running a couple comp games before. But the floodgates have opened. The channels are available to you. You can even do it a week earlier if you'd like. If you're here for the live show, you can jump in and do your own thing over the course of this week using the channels. But they will close a couple days after so that we can reopen them again in the future. Next up, we have our sponsor of the show. We have Top Score Solutions from Ben, aka I Need Peeling. He's offering a business consulting option for esports connoisseurs. If you're looking to be an aspiring coach, set up a team, develop an app or service, boost your subscriber base, you just want to work in esports or anything like that, you can visit his website at topscoresolutions.com. Find him on Twitter at topscoreesports. And you can click the links and follow him to his Discord server, which he will get you connected with other personnel in there and also have some great discussions with other people using the service, like myself. I've been doing some coaching with a low GM, upper masters level team with a mix of 2 TESPA organizations, and they are currently on spring break, so we've had a little bit of a light week, but it's been great getting to know the guys and kind of working on their shot calling and jiving together as a unit. Additionally, Omnic Meta has been updated, ladies and gentlemen. He's got a really cool thing in the works, but this week we have the PC Meta Report returning for March 22nd. And boy, howdy, it's a doozy. There is a lot more increase across the board of Mercy at the lowest end of being a 7% increase over across anything in the meta on the PC. And there has been a 21% or higher percentage of Moira dropping. So it's been a very, very interesting thing. In addition, an additional note is that at most tiers, Orisa has also dropped just slightly with a max of 12% in Masters and a low of 0% in Bronze. But typically, it's kind of been seeing that Orisa's been seeing less play.
Yeah, kind of interesting that he reports in the meta how Mercy is taking back her spot as the main healer, even though after all the nerfs.
And if you want to see a lot more of the details on this, you can go read up the full write-up on his website at omnicmeta.com or tweet at him at omnicmeta on Twitter. PvP, what do you think, real quick before we move on, about kind of the frequency rates here?
About
the top.
Mercy making her comeback after being I knew she was still good. I told everyone that even if they did nerf her, that she would still be used a lot. I just didn't realize that she might still be the best support. So I'm not really fully sure on that. But one thing I do know is that she is one of the most consistent healers. She still has crazy mobility, and she can still provide damage boost, which is really, really strong. So
yeah,
it's definitely good to see her not completely die. But I don't know, Rez is pretty nutty. Sometimes there's just nothing you can do about
I
it.
think,
She can res
although-
right in front of you.
I don't want to steer the pot too much over here, but I really think that she's played so much, not so much because of the res. Obviously, reses have super powerful ability and gives you a lot of momentum, allows you to keep the fight going, but you no longer have like those insane reses anymore. I think it's more just because she's just a solid healer at every rank. You just click somebody and you heal them to the top.
Yep.
Also, I think a little bit of it could be the staying power of other heroes that just haven't dropped and have stayed the same. Albeit they were supposed to, as everyone's saying, kind of drop in frequency. Like you could say Junkrat and Pharah and Widowmaker. Those heroes were supposed to take a little bit of a hit because of the Mercy nerfs. But in reality, they kind of have just stayed the same. And Mercy, like Moira, just kind of swung for a couple weeks. And then now people are like, well, Mercy's not terrible, so we'll still play it, and we can still res the Zenyatta's in the back line, damage boost those Widowmakers, stuff like that.
I think one more thing that makes Mercy extremely strong is the rise of Sombra. Because Mercy can still heal and still damage boost through Sombra hack, but Zenyatta just gets shredded. Lucio is completely useless with his new nerf. And, Moira's still
completely
okay.
neutered.
Yeah. That's unfortunate what they did to Lucio.
I mean, he is the target of Sombras pretty much in every fight, unless there's an area where you can drop a fair out of the sky. So
yeah.
All right, we got a couple other things here on the docket. We've got the Owl Recap is now part of our Omnic Lab Discord. If you want to submit questions to Andres' other show with Bob and Melrina, you can submit questions in our Discord and talk about the Owl stuff in that section of the Discord. And you can also see them in their new exclusive roles as the Owl Recap hosts in the red. Additionally, we have our Diamond sponsors on Patreon. We have Britmus, Ben K, Christoplaya, Good Apollo, Great Golden Soldier A, Great Rupier, Jeff B, Jeremy Banks, Lysum, Never Clutch Not, Meta, Jan Janko, Ricky Tiki Shazir, Top Score Solutions, of course, and Tragic Zach. And we have 3 new people this week. We have 2 new diamonds. We have Jeff D and Scantily Clad, one of the most sketchy names that we have, besides Sketchy Nonsense Podcast in the past. But we also have Rue, who is a new patron, not diamond, but still just as cool. And we want to thank you guys for supporting the show. This is the time to be a patron, folks, because this is getting in. Within the next couple weeks, we should be seeing an announcement for BlizzCon, as per usual. Basically, this last week should have been the week last year when they told us when the BlizzCon dates were. So we'll be getting some more announcements in the weeks ahead. Hopefully, you will see us there if you're attending, and if you want to support the show and help us get there, especially me with my outrageous bills with plane costs from Japan, you can help us out there. But I think that's going to do it. Let's get into the maps, guys. Let's talk China. Let's talk Lijiang. Let's talk KotH. So, Andres, you have a few general things you want to hit before we get into the specific maps, right?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I want to ask a question to everyone, since we were discussing at the beginning of the show. How would you spell Lijiang Tower? Just think about how you spell it and then go check it out.
Don't check your app.
Yeah, don't check the
Don't
app.
check your app.
It'll be a quiz.
I know it starts with an L.
We'll see how many people can spell it right. Rob had plenty of practice spelling it today. But yeah. Before we jump into the map itself, I wanted to pick PvP Brain and just talk about control maps in general, because control maps are like its own subset of maps, and they don't play the same as the other ones. Let's talk a little bit about the style, the mindset that you should have when approaching these control maps. How are these fights different than in other places?
So the control maps are the most fast-paced and quick. Not only is it the quickest game mode, I guess 2CP could be faster if people snowball, but generally control is the fastest, and the fights are really, really quick. Like as soon as you wipe, you're like, all right, everyone regroup, we gotta go in quickly. So that's one thing to know about control versus payload, where it might be just like, you're pushing the payload and you might be backing up a little bit and then pushing back up again. Control, it's all about percentage of the point capture, so it's always going to be fast-paced. So mobile heroes tend to be king on control, but it can vary depending on the control map you get.
Additionally, too, the layout of control maps is a lot different than most of the other maps. A lot of the other maps tend to be very linear in the progression. Even assault maps or capture maps where you have to capture the point, those tend to be linear in the sense that you always know where the enemy is coming from. You always know where the defending team is coming from, and it's kind of like a line, right? Like one of them is coming from one side, one of them is coming from the other. And even though control maps do have like both opposing ends like that, they tend to be a little more circular, which makes the rotation through the maps a little more fluid, I would say. So it's a lot less linear like the other maps, where you expect the team to go through a straight path for a long time, for example. And I think that affects the way that you play them as well. Like you said, mobility heroes are king in this type of map, just because you're able to traverse that kind of layout so much easier and so much faster. All right. Before we jump into map 2, I want to talk about do's and don'ts in this map. I think that there's general rules of thumb that people have realized over time. Like, for example, when your team has control of the point, you want to try to keep control of the point as long as possible, even if you're losing the fight, which is sometimes the opposite of what you want to do in other maps, right? If you lose the fight in other maps, you might want to abandon and regroup as fast as possible. Well, in this type of map, stalling and keeping control and keeping that percentage going up can be a little better. Let's talk a little bit about the interaction with the point. Do you have any tips in regards to that?
Yeah, so I was going to actually talk about what you just mentioned too, about how sometimes losing the fight is the correct play just to get the percentage of the cap up a little bit further. Like if you want to push the point to 96% just so you can get it to the final stretch and then regroup and get one more team fight and just close it out and finish the game. That's something that's really important to take note on control maps versus like a payload map, because on payload you almost never want to lose a fight. You always want to win. And on King of the Hill, sometimes it's just important to just stagger in one at a time. Like you see a teammate on the point, be like, all right, when are you going to die? I'll go in next, and we keep stalling. Yeah, that's important. And then another thing is you always want to be fighting. If you have control of the point, it's always important to be fighting near the point, because the worst thing that you could do is let the other team flip the point, because then they can do the stall tactic against you guys, and then you're trying to retake the point against them, and then you end up losing the fight, and you lose like 70% of the cap for no reason. So you never want to C9. That's really important.
Never C9.
Yep.
One thing about control points is what you said. Whoever has control of the point is basically winning at the moment, and the fight almost comes secondary. Once you're able to take control of that, even if you are on the losing end, or you're in the back foot, basically, the enemy team has been able to pick up one or two guys. It's very much worth it to try to contest that percentage for as long as possible, to keep control of the point, keep your clock moving, get it as close to 99 as possible before you give up control of that point, because that enables you to regroup with your team. And the second you win that team fight and you regain control of the point, you only have to wait like 1 or 2 seconds before the overtime timer runs out, and then you have won the match. So very, very crucial that you're able to get it up to that 99 before you lose control, because more than likely at one point you will lose control of the point. The other team will have 3 or 4 ultimates, and if they're somewhat competent at one point or another, they will take it from you.
Something interesting about the control map aspect in general is that when you're playing 2CP or assault, or if you're playing payload or escort, these map styles kind of evolve point to point. And especially within escort and hybrid, when you're getting on the payload section, there are certain aspects of each, point A, point B, point C that kind of revolve around one strategy that works really well for the whole of it. And then when you move into the next point, you kind of transition into hero swaps that you can make if you want to take advantage of that specific style of engagements within that new area, right? And the one map is constantly evolving as you progress. And the same thing happens with 2CP, except for it's a little bit more point by point, because there's only 2, and you can kind of just jump in, you do one thing for a little bit, and then as soon as that happens, then you can kind of have a little bit of breathing room, go back and reset, or you can try to push your advantage of timing if you can kind of kill them all really quickly, and then boom, you can like rush to the next point if you stagger them properly, right? But with KotH, you have very clear breaks within map strategy within relevant team comps, right? We're going to see this a lot with Lijiang in particular, because if you run into control center, you're seeing a lot of teams in like top level teams and even top level ladder teams are running like 3 tanks or lots of burst damage with like Junkrat, Reaper, and 2 tanks, and Moira. But then you get to like that map ends, and then you go to the night market, and then it's very, very open. You see like Widowmakers and Pharahs and Lucios and like just nutty different things with like Mercies and even just Zenyatta's way far back. So when you're thinking about your team comps, you got to think not so much about KotH and Lijiang, but you also need to think about this particular style of Lijiang, like the 3 different maps. And we're going to get into that, I think, next. So let's do that now, I think.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, PvP, you have the floor to choose which one of these you want to go with. Night Market, Control Center, or Garden.
We could talk about night market first.
Okay.
I guess I'll just do like a quick rundown of all 3 just over for a second.
Sure.
One of my favorite things about this map, Lijiang Tower, is that they're all 3 different. And as someone that likes to play projectile heroes myself, I really like Junkrat, Pharah, and Genji. Those are my 3 favorite DPS. All 3 of them shine on a different round. So what's really cool is on night market, for example, dive comp is usually the strongest because it's just like it's just a square. And when you're fighting in a circle and there's like walls that are separating people, having a dive comp is really strong because a Winston can be fighting on the point, and then he can jump through a window, go get a health pack, and then jump right back in, or he can get away from enemies and also still apply like immense amount of pressure. And what's good about Genji on this map is there's so much walls and windows and things for him to get away and evade, but also dive in and do extreme amounts of damage. It's night market. In my opinion, I think dive comp is the best. If you don't know what dive comp is, that's usually run with Winston, Eva, Tracer, Genji, Lucio, Zen, which is just high mobility, high target burst damage composition. Yeah, that's my thoughts on night market as a whole.
Yeah, night market, for those of you who don't know what night market is basically the one where you walk straight into the courtyard with like the lions staring at each other, and the point is off to one side with a huge precipice over on the side. This map, like you said, it's super dive oriented. Any hero like Tracer, like Winston, that can come in and out of the point very quickly. There's so many places that you can kite, not to mention that there's 2 big health packs very close to the point. So all these heroes that can jump through the wall and grab those health packs and keep coming in back into the battle are extremely, extremely helpful. Also, because this map has the point off to one side, it makes it so that most of the fight is held on the side of the precipice, and you have this open side, which it leads to Tracers, for example, having a whole empty map side where they can flank freely, they can sneak in behind the enemy team. It's quite useful for any flanker that's trying to be sneaky. Even I've seen Widowmakers just post up over here, because then you can have a sight line into the point, for example, while being a little bit away from the battle and forcing the enemy team to have to come hunt you down over here. What about you, Rob? What are your thoughts on night market?
I think the only thing we haven't covered is the power of Sombra on this particular map, because of how much area denial you have with the health packs. Because flankers are so strong, if you are able to deny 1 or 2 of their health packs and or enable your team around one of them, in particular the 2 megas on both sides of the wall before you get into the far side of the point, and then there's a small mini on the back. There's a little box on the precipice, like Andres was saying, in the backside that you can hack, so that even when you are not playing Sombra, you can actually hunt people down towards the packs knowing that they're hacked, and then they try to grab it and they're dead. So you have a lot of really good denial. And then if somebody is trying to stall on the point, or rather they have a full team on the point and you need to engage them to flip the map, like PvP was saying, when you get the high percentage, you need to close out the map. EMP is one of the best ways to do it. because you just hack everybody. They can't do anything. There's no diva bombs. There's no Winston ults for stalling because they can't do it. You just burst them down with Zen orbs from a distance and they're toast. So it's a very good map, and I'm actually pretty excited for Brigitte, especially on this map in particular. I think it's really mixed things up.
I could definitely see her being very useful in this map. Let's talk about.
True, I never thought about that.
Yeah, let's talk about heroes that maybe are not as useful in this map, and I'll start with my own opinion. And of course, you can make most heroes work in most maps, but I think that there's heroes that are less conducive. I personally think that Pharah, for example, can be a hero that can struggle a little bit in this map, and you might be like, well, there's so much space to fly around, you can boop people and the like, but I generally think that the way that fights are held inside of that huge square point, it makes it kind of hard for Pharah. If the team is just playing inside of the point, she basically has to go peek through the windows or fly inside of the point to be able to hit anyone, because if not, everybody will be undercover. So I personally think that as long as you're playing smart, Pharah can have a little bit of a hard time, not to mention that if she's flying in the open areas, it can be really easy to just take her down with a soldier or a McCree, or even just like your team just firing from the inside, to be honest. What do you think, PvP?
Yeah, I think it's definitely true. Like Pharah could definitely, there's plenty of space for Pharah to move, but there's also plenty of space for hit scans to kill Pharah, so there's not really much hiding spots or high ground areas that she could hide at. I wanted to point out maybe on the tank side of things, the reason why Orisa isn't used so well on this map is because, yeah, you can have control of the point, you can put an Orisa shield down, but what's the other team gonna do? They're either just gonna break the shield and then push in immediately when the shield's broken, or they're gonna go past the shield and just fight the supports in the back, because this map is near the point. There's really not much room where the supports can move. They're kind of just smothered into a corner, or they have to get near an edge.
Yeah,
and Lucio could just move them off the map. So it's kind of just not really place to shine for Orisa on this map either.
I agree, because Mercy has such a rough time on this map in particular. If you're trying to heal with her, there's no verticality for you to escape unless you have a Pharah on the point that happens to be up, and that's just making her a sitting duck for McCrees and soldiers. And soldier on this map, even if you're running dive without a Genji or a Tracer at lower elos, which you'll see a lot less of those two heroes, you can just run a soldier in one of their places and then have like anyone else and be fine. Like even just Junkrat spam somewhere on the point is fine.
Soldier's a pretty popular pick. You see a lot of pro teams play soldier in this
very
map.
Strong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very strong on this map because of the healing field taking up almost a fourth of the point. So you can just like zone out one area with
absolutely
some healing.
He is a support healer.
How about
support hero?
Yeah. How about like little tips and tricks in this map? Are there any little nooks and crannies that you've discovered that are particularly good, or do you like using certain maps or certain areas of this map with your Junkrat or any other hero specifically?
There's one strat that I want to point out that actually I learned, I think last season. I got baited hard by I think it was some people that were in the Overwatch League. They used it against my team that I was playing. And basically what it does is whenever let's say my team is the team getting baited. So my team is pushing in to attack the point and we go into the courtyard, and the other team is just positioned on the outsides of the point, and they jump over the wall and they dive you in the courtyard. So you kind of just like go in the courtyard and you're like, oh shit, where are they at? And then they just crash over the walls and they surround you. It's like something that it worked a couple times. I don't know if it's probably something you could play around, obviously, but you can really catch teams by surprise by using the courtyard to bait teams in and just collapse on their back line. And it's just a really good bait spot when you're trying to defend that point.
Nice. Wow. And talking about the courtyard, because the courtyard has an open area and then it has like an enclosed area. And right outside of the enclosed area, you have those huge health packs. And I think that any hero like Winston, like Genji, Doomfist, even Hanzo, for example, can really abuse these walls, because you can just be on the side of the big health pack and be kind of just jumping over the wall, poking into the courtyard, doing whatever you need to do, and then just coming back out again, getting that health pack, going back in again. And you have two, so you can do that twice in a row, keeping the pressure up quite a bit and baiting a lot of cooldowns. You can do that with a Sombra as well. You can do it with a Tracer and Recall or just your Blinks. So that's a very strong area to be fighting in, especially heroes that don't have a lot of mobility, like Orisa, for example, like you said.
Doomfist is not something that I considered, but I can see him getting a lot of value here because if you're not hitting somebody into a wall, typically you're hitting them off the map. And he has an ultimate that covers the entire space of the point. And I've seen Chipsa do some stuff. I've been like binge watching Chipsa since we had him on the show on his YouTube.
He's fun to watch
because his editor is fantastic. Like they add all of these really funny like Minecraft sounds when he does things and like these little like 8-bit sound bites when he like kills somebody. It's just the funniest thing. So like when Chipsa does Lijiang in particular, not in particular this night market, but when you play Garden, he can get his ultimate to go all the way on the very tip top of that tower, land there and like slide off, and then he'll like wait until he can like fall down and try to like use his fall to find the Pharah, and then like uppercut her while she's still in the air, and then like triple shot her, and because she has no trajectory because he just displaces her.
I've seen that clip.
And then he uses his other ability, whatever it's called, the seismic slam, to like land on somebody else for like a gazillion damage because he's like in the air forever.
Yeah, he's fun to watch.
The cool thing about uppercut is it puts the hero in place, so even if the Pharah, like when you uppercut her, she's just stuck there in the air.
Yeah. It's like a balancing thing, right? Like or a I don't know how you say, like a replacement. Like you're putting them where you need them, and then they're kind of like set trajectory, so you can actually. I think Jake talked about it back when we had him on about Soldier. It's the same thing when you Helix Rocket somebody in the feet. They like pop up a little bit, and you can't really do anything.
The last little tip I want to leave over here, and this is a Tracer tip that I've seen. You can use the little lions in the courtyard to get to the high ground. There's a couple high ground places that you can go to, and with Tracer they're really hard to reach, but you can actually get up there. If you climb on top of the head of the lion right outside, you can just blink into one of the second floors. So you can use that to track down people that are hiding away from you. You can use that to hide. You can use that to flank. I think it's pretty useful with the hero, and it might come in handy with a few others. With Tracer, definitely takes advantage of it. I don't know if any other hero can particularly use that. All right. You guys want to jump into Garden?
All right. Let's check some flowers and stuff, I guess.
Let's go straight into Garden. Garden, for those of you who don't know, is the map with the huge bell tower in the center that goes up really, really high. It has precipices on both ends of it. There's a huge precipice on the side of the map as well, that it's only that there's like 2 hanging bridges. Pharahs love booping people off of there, same as Lucio's. And then on the other side, you have the only, I guess, inside or indoors space with a little bridge leading up to the point. So I'm pretty sure that you guys can deduct or figure out what map that is.
It's the one with the moat, folks. You have the moat, you have the 2 bridges, you have the back little area, and then you have the hut, which is what my team calls it, but I don't know what else you would say. It's a little house on the outside. You can say house or hut. And then you have the tower, and the mega health packs are right by the river. And then there's 2 little windows and only 2 other entrances besides the windows on the little semicircle around the tower.
All right, let's talk about team comps. What team comps are good for this map? Because it's slightly different than Night Market.
Oh, yeah.
PvP? Yeah, so this is one of my favorite maps for this favorite round. What do I call it? Maps for the map? Rounds for the map? I don't even know.
Map for the match.
I like Garden a lot because Pharah Mercy shines, and I love playing Pharah Mercy, and just the most satisfying thing ever is booping people off the map.
Oh,
and it's like for some reason this game has been out for what, 9 seasons of competitive, and you can still always boop someone off the bridge at the beginning of the game. I don't understand how people don't learn, but yeah, I like Pharah Mercy a lot. I think one of the most important things to point out about this map is the point itself, how it has that little wall in the middle of it. I feel like that changes things completely because it allows people to kite in a circle around that pillar and the wall in the middle. So even though Pharah could be like shut down on the outside, Pharah is still kind of strong inside the point because you have that cover to hide behind in the point. you can hide behind those walls when you need to, or the pillar.
For sure.
So
And
that's like, yeah.
I was gonna say, let's talk about why Farah is so strong in this map too. And one of the things I've noticed on Farah maps, like maps where Farah just shines and a lot of people like using her, is that they have a pillar in the center of the action, basically. So, for example, Lijiang Tower Garden has that requirement. You can also see that in Eichenwald on the first point, for example.
Yep.
So any of these places that have this like central pillar that is overlooking the point and is overlooking the map in general are amazing for Farah, because she can basically just kite around this without ever being out of the action. You don't have to be off to the sidelines in one building and fire off to the side. No, you're like right on top of the point, and it doesn't matter what direction they're coming from because it's circular. You can just move to the opposite side of that tower, always having cover and always overlooking the point, which is super strong as Farah, especially if you're overlooking the bridges, because you basically are a huge threat to anyone crossing that bridge, not only because of your rockets, but you can boop off anyone out of there. So everyone has to kind of play around you there. Most people end up choosing to even go through the bridge, which is a very small funnel, which again, it can be great for things like barrage, for example.
Yeah, I also really like this map for Lucio for the same reasons that PvP talked about with the booping. You're going to see a lot of zone potential as well, because of it feels like even though the map point is typically on KotH the same size, the maps that have something on the point, like in Nepal, I think it's Shrine, or maybe it's not Shrine, it's the one that's outside with the big tower.
Yeah.
And it's
I
like
don't know
there's
what
that
it's called.
giant statue, and then there's also this one with not Night Market Garden. The point always feels so small because you have these obstacles that are on it with you. And so when you're doing these things, Lucio gains a lot of value because not only can he LOS, he can use that thing in the middle as an object in which he can get speed and also position, and he can maneuver and dodge shots, and then he can push you where he wants you to be so that he can get away with the boop. So even if he's not going for the boop kill or the boop off of the map, he can use it for spacing for his team and positioning players where they don't want to be, and even booping you into his team. So Lucio has a lot of utility, and it's not something you want to be ignoring as a primary option for your team in this map.
Yeah, I think another thing to point out about Lucio is on this map specifically, usually the team that gets to the point or gets past the bridge first is the team that's going to have the better position. And in King of the Hill, usually the team with the better position always has the advantage. So Lucio's speed boost is extremely, extremely important.
Very important.
Just to push your team all the way to the point together, and
Right.
get there. Don't get stuck across the bridge, or don't give the other team the point for free. Because if you go right with a slow comp, you're going to give the other team the point. If you go left, you might not be able to get across the bridge if you don't have a Lucio.
Well, and I love that you mentioned that. Like, let's talk a little bit about the approaches in the fight of this map, because I definitely agree with you. Whoever can cross the bridge first has a huge advantage because they can hold the team basically at a semi-choke point. If you can hold them right before they cross the bridge, then you're a huge advantage because they're fighting on very shaky ground, right? They're fighting on ground where your Farah can boop him, your Lucio can boop him, your Orisa or your Hog could boop him. Hog is another hero that is really great on this map because you can hook people over the moat and basically just guarantee kills even on tanks if you just automatically boop him out of the map. So yeah, crossing the bridge is super important. If you cannot cross this bridge, sometimes you're forced to go over to the other side where, it's a little covered. But then again, the team that crossed the bridge first will see you do this and they can hold you at that funnel again. So I think that you're very right on that. Whoever crosses the bridge first has a pretty big advantage in terms of positioning.
Yeah, and another thing to point out is in King of the Hill, usually the team that wins the first fight also has an extreme advantage because they have ult advantage. So they're going to be the first team to be able to pop ults for the upcoming fight. So really having that Lucio at the very beginning to speed boost and give your team the slight advantage to potentially win that first fight could be the difference between a win or loss between the entire match.
What heroes do you think are a little harder to play unguarded?
Hmm. Let me think about that for a second. I don't know. Do you mean DPS wise or tank wise? I guess I could
Just
say.
everything.
Any hero that you think kind of struggles a little bit in this map in particular? I mean, aside from maybe Symmetra, which kind of struggles in every control map in existence.
Hashtag buff Symmetra. I don't know. I mean, I think could say the obvious Reaper, but because Pharah is so strong. You could say I'm not really sure, to be honest. I think this
I think
map is kind
Reinhardt
of
could have even a decent time here.
yeah,
If he's
like it's kind of
positioned
weird
right.
because almost everything is really strong in this map. It really just depends on what the other team is running. Because you could run any tank setup. I feel like Zarya might struggle a little bit. It really just depends on what the other team is running. The reason Zarya might be rough is because if they are running like a dive comp and playing just really aggressive, you're not going to be able to build energy quick enough. But that's not necessarily because of the map. That's just because of what the other team is running.
Right. And yeah, and you might be right over here. I think that Garden overall, it's a pretty good layout to run almost every composition. And heroes might oscillate between being really good or really bad, really depending on what the other team is running. Because I was even thinking about maybe bringing up McCree, but McCree can be great taking out the pharmacy up there sometimes. Although he can struggle if you have no shields in this map just because of his limited mobility and all the precipices that are around him. You kind of have to go through some shaky territory to be able to get to the point sometimes.
I would say that, like PvP said, I think knowing that any hero can do well here in general, if they're positioning correctly, this map leads itself to allowing you a lot of flexibility. And I think that's something you definitely want to take advantage of. If your team is really good on a particular hero and they want to play it, try to let them play it if you're in comp. Try to be that flex if you're willing. If you're like, hey, this guy doesn't want to play Winston, I can play it, and he really wants to play, I don't know, May, or he really wants to play Reaper, even though it may not be good. His Reaper is probably better and has more hours or feels way more confident on it than maybe the enemy team's Pharah, and you can probably still do it. So even if they struggle, this map is really, really flexible, as long as you guys are tightening up around what you're trying to play.
Right. Yeah. Even like a Widowmaker or Anna can work sometimes. I think that
I loved playing Anna on this map.
Yeah, the snipers can sometimes struggle depending on what the enemy team is running, just because there's not a lot of high ground, especially in the places where people like to fight in general. Off to the side, you can find some high ground, but very limited. It's behind a lot of things. So Widow can definitely shine if the other team is playing a Pharah, for example, though you can definitely have a lot of space to take her down. But aside from that, she might struggle a little more getting damage in than most other DPSs. I don't know.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to point out with Widow is something you see a lot in top 500 games is if the other team is using a Pharah Mercy and let's say you die, you can just swap the Widow in your spawn door and you can literally snipe the Pharah from your spawn door, like in your spawn,
and then switch,
and then swap back to whatever you were playing before. That's something that happens a lot because not only, even if you don't kill the Pharah Mercy, you're gonna force the Pharah to drop to the ground, so it helps your team.
Or play a lot more conservatively, at least.
Yeah. And you could like get her to drop down, maybe tag her once, even if you don't kill her, you can just swap back to Tracer and get back to the point.
It's a good
All
tip.
right. Any little tips and tricks in this map? That's a pretty good one, actually, because yeah, you do have a lot of vision from your spawn in this map. But any other little tricks that you've learned in this map that you like exploiting?
Almost every single time I play this map, I play Pharah, just because this is one of the maps in the game that Pharah is just so fun and strong to play. And one thing that you can do on Pharah that not a lot of people know is you can do a rocket jump, which gets you way up in the air and it saves a bunch of your fuel. And by rocket jump, it's where you look at the ground and you shoot the ground with your rocket, and you also do your thrust at the same time, and it'll shoot you to the skybox almost immediately, and you get to keep all your flight, so you can maintain high ground. And this is good at the beginning because you can also get higher up in the air to shoot your boop at the bridge quicker whenever you need to.
That's one little thing. save your boop in this map. A lot of Pharahs love using the boop to lift off from the point in this map, but it's so much more useful if you save it for that first encounter when you see the enemy team crossing the bridge, because you can win your team the fight right then and there and guarantee that point in the first 10 seconds of the match if you just save that boop.
I've seen Fleta and Dreamcast do this a lot as well when they play Pharah here. When you get to the point, and the fights are still going on rather than just the initial stage, you can do the same rocket jump on top of the tower, like one of the roofs. You know how it's like a tiered roofs?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get on the far right side of the point or the back side of the point and safely like get higher into the skybox. And I don't know why, but it seems like it's a lot easier to maintain and use that pillar on the outside for cover. And then additionally, something that kind of a side benefit for learning how to rocket jump, you can, at the beginning of the game and anytime you rocket jump, you can communicate this with your Mercy or your Zenyatta, and you can give them free ultimate healing charge because you're taking self damage from the rockets.
One last little trick or little tip more than anything that I want to leave in this map is you can abuse that moat. Not throwing people into the moat around the point, but don't be so scared of the precipice. With a lot of heroes, you can actually go through the moat and avoid the bridge and avoid the huge loop around that you have to do through the other side. Obvious choices are Tracer, Genji,
Winston Diva,
anyone with a rocket boost. But non-obvious ones, though, are Soldier 76. I don't know if you've ever tried this, but if you're running, you can make it to the other side just by jumping through it.
I'm too scared to try that.
I've done it.
You have to break the gates or whatever.
Yeah, you have to make sure to break the gates.
barrier.
But I've done it before. It was in overtime, and I was running back to the point, so there was no time for me to go around the bridge. And I was like, "Well, I'm gonna try this." And sure enough, you can make it to the other side just by running.
I actually didn't even know that. That's pretty crazy.
Well, what's going to happen is tune into PVPTwitch. He's going to go try it today, and he's going to fall. So you guys
don't blame me. Don't blame me, okay?
You'll see Andres in my chat saying,
"He'll get jebaited."
I promise it works.
He's just going to have a bunch of jebaited emotes.
But you can also do it with like Junkrat, for example. You can do it with Maywall. You can Maywall underneath yourself and use it to cross the moat. And being able to cross this super quick can be a great way for you to get to the point fast and avoid super high or high threat areas like the bridge. Everybody's going to be spamming that bridge, or if they see your team go around, they're definitely going to stop you at the choke right there. So try to avoid those choke points. There's so many heroes that can avoid them, and you can just get through to the point just by jumping through the moat. And I don't think I see enough people doing this sometimes. Aside from the obvious heroes.
If you guys are coming into game night, make sure that you play Roadhog and Lucio and guard it, because then you can just boop them off, and the soldier jumping can be a very, very sad soldier.
Yes, on the other side, you can also guard a moat, and you can kill a lot of people by doing so.
Moat guarding at its finest. All right, guys. I think we're going to go to the most different of the three maps, Control Center. PvP, walk us through what's good on this part of the map.
I mean, as the Junkrat main, I guess I have to say that this is one of the best maps for Junkrat, just because it's like you're playing in like a little tunnel basically the whole time. Everyone always fights in the close quarters, and since Junkrat shines, that means Winston Diva is going to struggle a lot because it's really close quarters and it's easy to bust the tanks, and things like Rein, Zarya, and Lucio are going to be really strong because you can just speed in. Zarya can get high energy. Reinhardt can block almost everything, and you can just push. It's a Zerg style composition that's really strong on this map. Yeah, that's pretty much the best composition for this map, and what you're almost always going to see.
Yeah,
maybe
definitely
the triple tank. With
this
Moira.
map, compared to the other ones, is very, very close quarters. Like you said, thin corridors, lots of choke points. You can block entire sections of the map with your Rein shield, like you said, just by standing near the door. May actually work surprisingly well in this map as well, for the same reason. There's a lot of places that you can block access to with her. And you see a lot of heroes like Orisa being played in this map as too. But I think that Reinhardt has really been the tank of choice by a lot of high level players. It seems to do really, really well on this map. And Zarya, like you said, again, high mobility heroes and Junkrat heroes that can do a lot of spam. Reaper can be particularly useful in this map as well, just because of the nature of it. You get to be up close, very, very intimate with the opponent. You get to know them really, really well.
Moira shines extremely well.
Right.
I was just about to say, as the resident support player, let me tell you, this is Moira's playground. This is the best place. There's something that I will say that is also really good that a lot of people aren't doing, despite having a lot of barriers on this, is playing Ana is one of the best ways to shut down Moira if you're good at her, because you have to manage your position really well, because you get punished so quickly if they're running any form of high mobility. And then you have to monitor your enemy Zarya's barriers as well. So if you're good at timing those two things and holding your grenade and not like worrying about or playing tightly with your tanks and not worrying so much about using your grenade to bail yourself out, but using it to engage, you can really do a lot of damage. Even if you're not killing the Moira immediately, you're just shutting her usability off and you don't actually have to focus her as the primary target anymore. In addition to that,
that's a pretty good tip,
Roadhog's really good.
I would say, like you said, Ana, the grenade is so amazing in this map because everyone just clumped up together the whole time. I've many times playing Ana in this map, I just throw the grenade at a wall. I don't even have to throw it at the floor.
Yep.
I just throw it at a wall like behind them, and the area of effect is big enough that you'll get all of them purple, which is so strong and so hard to do in more open maps.
I can't remember who, like, I've heard a lot of mixed things from Fitzy when I was in his stream and he was playing Sombra on this particular map. And also I watched Jardio try to play Mei on this map. Mei is really good to counter a lot of Junkrat issues and help preserve your tanks a little bit if you can kind of... You have to have a very high level past where I would say the skill floor is of usability. You have to kind of get a little bit above the skill floor to really maximize use of Mei. But Blizzard on this map is really, really strong. And EMP can be very strong if they're running the standard stuff like PvP was mentioning. But PvP, you've been playing a ton of Sombra recently on Nala. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Sombra's broken right now. It's really good. Well, yeah, they did just do a couple of Sombra nerfs. They made it so whenever like your hack gets interrupted, it goes on like a global 2-second cooldown. And also...
You take the damage, yeah.
What was the other one they just did? There was another one.
They upped
the line of
Mei's...
sight.
Oh yeah, the LOS thing, yeah.
Yeah, the line of sight. They made it a little bit harder to get the hack off. Yeah, Sombra can be insane because one thing I want to talk about was the little high ground platform above the point, which is something that actually is extremely freaking useful, not only for Sombra, but it's good for other things I want to mention.
A lot of heroes can take advantage of that, yeah.
Yeah, I was saying like, yeah, triple tank and like Junkrat shines on this, but that doesn't mean you still can't run a dive style comp because of that high ground thing platform above the point. And also there's a mega health pack on the left right next to the point. So you can utilize the Sombra by hacking the mega health pack, which is on a little mini upper platform towards the outside of the map. That's right next to the point. So if you have dive tanks, they could just go get the health pack whenever they need it. Sombra has 2 different elevation sides of the map that she can get away from and get easy hacks from. So there really is multiple ways that you can fight this map. I still think the Zerg style with the Junkrat is king, but with a really organized team, you could definitely make a dive comp or a Sombra comp work really well.
Dive can definitely work in this map, but like you said, if the other team is running this very spammy composition with a Junkrat and a Moira, it starts becoming quite deadly for guys like Genji, for example, just going in the close quarters versus concussive mine and Sombra Orb is just a nightmare for that kind of hero. So if the team is kind of playing tightly close together, it's just hard to dive him, right?
Yeah, it's okay for like the Winston and the Diva, but it really struggles for the Genji and the Tracer. There's not much space for them to move
there's
around.
not a lot of space for them to maneuver, and you can kite them easily because there's so much shit going around. Another hero that I think particularly struggles in this map is Pharah. I think you can pull her. You can pull her off at the lower levels when people are not paying that much attention to you. But the map itself is very enclosed, and you have almost no space. There is an outside area, but honestly, the outside area is easy to play around with. So if you're just playing with the Pharah outside of there, a competent team will just kind of leave you alone there until they need to deal with you while they deal with everyone else. And yeah, you have to put yourself in very precarious situations to be able to get value out of Pharah in this map, in my opinion.
That's what I also wanted to mention Pharah, because we talked about on Garden how it has that little pillar in the middle of the point, and it has like high ground area that Pharah can hide behind. And also on Eichenwald, it has that huge clock tower that Pharah can hide behind.
Yeah.
On Control Center, there's nothing. There's like a little pillar
like
in
a
the middle.
half tower.
Tiny,
Yeah,
tiny
it's like
little
a
one. Yeah.
mini tower. It's kind of. It's not. It's like something Lucio could use, but
Yeah,
something
but
not
Lucio
something
tower.
Pharah-
You can't
It's
cage
not
a
something
Pharah with
Pharah
that
can
little
use.
tower. Yeah, you gotta let her fly free.
Yeah, and the hit scan isn't necessarily crazy strong on this. It's okay, but if Pharah was to be used, it'd be extremely easy for hit scan to kill Pharah like a soldier. In it.
Especially
Agree.
because the range that she's at is super optimal for most hit scans, while not providing a lot of cover for her.
I'm trying to
Alrighty.
think of like other things that you want to talk about for like tips and tricks. Maybe you can utilize the flank paths. I think a lot of players typically will just go like straight to point, or they're gonna go on that left side by the health pack room, where there's all of the little like server. I think it's just a server room, right? Before you go up the stairs. Those are like the three areas by the point to the furthest point. But a lot of players aren't really utilizing the outside catwalk right by where you can kind of get booped off, and then like that mini platform on the far right of the point with the archways. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, one thing I wanted to mention was like the comparing the outlay of this map versus the other one. This one's kind of like a triangle shape, where like both teams start on this like bottom corners, and then you push up towards the top of the triangle in the middle where the point is, and you can cut across to go straight to the other team's spawn. So if you are in a certain situation where you want to, let's say you're playing DPS and you see someone on the other team get killed late, like a Moira or a Mercy or something, if you're playing like Tracer, you can go straight to their spawn instead of going to point, and you could spawn kill whoever's staggered, because there's different angles that you could take it, and you can always get you can get to their backline really easily, which helps a lot.
Right.
But yeah, utilizing the high ground too, you can like flank the point, helps a lot.
I think that the back paths are definitely a great resource for flankers. Tracer loves these back paths because you can even get to the high ground with her really fast and just drop on whoever you need with a couple blinks, basically. Or heroes like Soldier, for example, they love using their visor from up here. Even Junkrat, for example, just going up here and using your tire hidden from view and just dropping the tire into a bunch of people can be pretty useful.
Dropping
from
your
up there.
EMP from that spot is so clutch.
Any ult you drop from this spot is pretty deadly. I've even seen Reinhardt's go all the way up there just waiting for the enemy team and then just jump out of there to air shatter. I swear to God, like that is the diving ultimate spot.
The funniest thing is booping Reinhardt in the air while he's mid. Like if a Reinhardt's falling from the sky with Earth Shatter, and then you boop him back up into the air with Lucio, so he's still going up in there. Because you hear the voice line, but he hasn't done the slam yet. So
Yeah,
his
his arms are
whole
raised.
animation is like frozen in time. He's like, I just want to hit the ground.
Pretty funny.
Also, I saw something really cool with D.Va. You can walk to the edge of that little catwalk before you drop down, set your bomb off, and then in baby D.Va form, just like continue to like move slowly towards the bomb, and you can like push it off the edge right before it detonates. And it's a devastating play.
That's something I do a lot on Watchpoint Gibraltar on the second point with the little ship thing.
Right.
I'll have to push it off the high ground. I wanted to point the biggest tip that I always tell people with like if your team is running 3 tanks and a Junkrat and the other team's running 3 tanks and a Junkrat, when most teams what they do is you go straight up the middle to the little mini health pack, and then you go to the right towards the enemy team straight to them. If you see a Junkrat on the other team, always move to the left to the point. You always want to fight on the point because it's harder for the Junkrat to hit you when you're not in a choke point. The point is a huge circle. If you're sitting in that little corner where the mini health pack is and the choke point, the Junkrat's just going to shoot nades over your Rhine shield. It's going to hit walls in the back and then kill everyone in the back. And you can throw your concussion mines over it too. I have highlight reels that I have in montages because I get like 100% ult charge and I get like four kills because I just shoot over the Reinhardt shield at that choke point. Most people don't realize all they have to do is go point, and it's a lot harder for me to kill them because it's a huge open area.
And you can bail out to the health pack on the opposite side easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, this map is all about controlling that spam, man. Like, even if you're running triple tank, using your shields and your matrix appropriately when you have to, so you're not giving that Junkrat immediate ultimate kind of thing.
Okay, guys, I think that's going to do it for us. We are real low on the news this week. There was only one thing I saw. I think we mentioned it a little bit in passing, was the nerf for Sombra that I believe is not... This is live, right? The 2-second thing? That's live now? Or
the global 2-second thing is live, and also it gets interrupted easier through line of sight.
So if you lose line of sight mid-hack, the hack doesn't register that cooldown. It's only when you're taking damage and interrupted that you'll get the 2-second cooldown. Controversially, this will help a lot with playing in the 1v1 against enemy Sombras. I feel like this is a subtle thing that people haven't really discussed too much, but I heard Fitzy mention it. It's really good if you're playing 1v1 against an enemy Sombra to wait for them to start a hack, and then you can damage them. And if they try to get away when they translocate and you know where their translocator is, you can hack them when they come back, because there's a little delay before you can start firing after your translocator. So it's really, really high-level type strats. But that's going to do it. Also, reminder that Brigitte is live for quick play only until Season 10, and then she will be rolling out to the live servers. So please petition Blizzard if you have any changes that you'd like to see on the forums, as that's their primary platform for listening to feedback. We have 2 iTunes reviews coming in. One from last week, which Andres would like to read because it was really cool. And then we also have one this week from MC Music saying, I started playing Overwatch early 2018. The podcast has been a great help. I'm only on episode 11, but I'm digging it so far.
Oh, wow. You got a lot of
going through the backlog.
Yeah, you got a lot of ground to cover if you're just starting with 11. I'm like honestly curious to go listen back to one of those first episodes that we made, because I'm sure we have evolved quite a bit since those first episodes. So I hope that you're enjoying the show.
Updates to do, like on Diva and Reaper. Like, he's completely different than when we first did those guys. And we have one more from Athena, 128890 from last week, saying, this is such a great show for Overwatch players. As other reviewers have mentioned, it's good to cover all skill levels. The guests may be Grandmaster or top 500 nearly always. They never forget that us mere mortals are working on the things a bit more basic. That said, if you don't think that you can apply some of what's learned here at your rank, think again. Add in a helping great dose of camaraderie and the terrific Discord community behind them. You've got yourself a winner. Thanks, Andres, for the enthusiasm, and Tales from the Front of the latter, and Rob for the humor and keeping it real and mostly on topic. Don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. Thank you guys so much for your iTunes reviews. It really means a lot, and I had a good chuckle reading this. So really appreciate that.
It always makes us really happy, especially when we see that what we're making is really helping you guys out there, and you guys are getting as much out of it as we're putting into it. It really makes it worthwhile for us. That is exactly why we started this, and I hope we can keep doing it.
And even though there is a lot of things going on with iTunes right now, they've been shuffling a lot of how things appear, frustrating a lot of other folks and kind of keeping people in line with where they are in the frequency levels. I still think that they're in transition to trying to integrate how iTunes reviews are fluctuating. But we still value them here on our show, and we'll still keep pushing them as a primary thing that helps us out. So if you do like the show, you listen to the show, please submit an iTunes review. You only have to do it once, and it's free, and it helps us out. So really, really covet those, and we'd like to keep our industry standard of the most received iTunes reviews of any Overwatch podcast. So keep that going. It's really been great. That's going to do it for the show. If you guys want to find us and support us, you also can head over to financially supporting us again on patreon.com/OmnicLab. We're also Twitch affiliates, like PvP as a Twitch affiliate, Twitch partner. You can hit the sub button and sub to us, or you can gift a sub to us for a friend. You can do that there, and we will get some bonus funds there.
Or if you have Amazon Prime, you can connect it to your Twitch account and sub once a month for free to Omnic Lab if you want to support them.
That's true. That's very true. We have
you can use this month on Omnic Lab, next month on PVPTwitch. Everyone wins, guys.
There you go.
You can get your Omnic Lab hype emotes, or you can get your plethora of Nala and Simba emotes with PvP. Those are his dogs, by the way. They're hilarious animals that you probably have heard in the background a few times.
Yeah, I've been trying to mute my headset quite frequently.
I haven't heard him, so you've been doing great, man.
Yeah.
They're a mess, to say the least, but they're great. They're really funny because you'll see his chat light up with Simba emotes when they hear a bark. It's pretty good. If you guys want to find us on social media, twitter.com/OmnicLab, facebook.com/OmnicLab. If you want to find our merch, that's on our website, omniclab.com. PvP, where can people find you, my man?
Everything is PVPTwitch. I have the Twitch, I have the YouTube, Facebook, Discord, and Twitter. Everything's PVPTwitch. If you guys want to go check it out, be awesome. If you come check it out.
You'll be streaming right after this episode live, so if these guys are in the chat, then they'll see you live next, yeah?
Yep, I'll be starting my stream. I've been doing so yeah, I'm here for Overwatch talking to you guys, but I've actually been expanding into Hearthstone lately too. So if there's anyone listening to this that is interested in Hearthstone, I used to play in college like 3 or 4 years ago, and I took it very seriously. I was really high rank, but then I quit for 2 years, so now I'm just now getting back into it. Like a couple weeks ago, I got back into it. I'm trying to push that grind, get immediately back to Legend for the next expansion coming out.
What deck are you playing?
Well, I'm missing a lot of the cards from the last few expansions, but I had enough dust to make Spiteful Priest, which I feel really bad about because that deck isn't insanely strong.
Oh, you're one of those spiteful priests.
Yeah. Also, I've been playing like the Dude Pally Miracle Rogue with like that spider card, where like adds cards to your deck and then brings out spiders whenever.
Strider.
Yeah, that's a cool one. That's a cool deck.
That's a pretty cool deck. And then also made like a Control Mage deck where it just has a bunch of removal.
Yep.
And
Big Mage.
Yeah, those are all the tier 1 decks that I've been playing.
Nice.
That I could afford.
Awesome. That I can afford. That's the key phrase with Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Andres, where can people find you, dude?
If you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. You can also find me talking Overwatch League over at the Owl Recap or Sister Show. You can also find us on Discord if you want to ask any questions and be part of the show. We're trying to make it as much community-driven as we can. As you know, Overwatch League is something for all of us to enjoy.
If you want to find me, I'm at the tag Not Rob or Not Rob May on pretty much any platform, so you can find me there. I will be doing the pack opening dig in a couple weeks when we have all of the new cards from Witchwood announcement. I know PvP will be doing the same, but we've been actually just starting my Hearthstone content with Velen's Chosen. We just started our live streaming, and I did a lot of work on that. So if you guys like Hearthstone, please check us out over at Velen's Chosen podcast on Twitch.
You guys gotta have me on that whenever you find something.
Whenever you hit Legend, you earn it, PvP.
Okay.
Yeah. The stream looks good, by the way.
Whenever you find something useful for me to talk about when I get up to Legend, maybe. I will.
Yeah, because right now he's behind my co-host who is hitting Legend almost every month. So you gotta step it up. Step it up.
All right, I'll try.
All right. But yeah, we've been doing some cool stuff. We got some new announcements this week. We also have some really cool stuff planned in the future. But it's been fun doing live streaming on Andres' side. I'm feeling the woes of having only 2 monitors when you need 3. So it's pretty rough on the streaming gig.
That's like first world problems, right? Like, oh man, I only have 2 monitors.
Dude,
I would send you one, but you live in Japan, so
it would cost more than the monitor to send it to me.
I'll just buy you one there.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, that's gonna do it, guys. If you love that stuff, that's at ValensChosen.com. Thank you so much for joining us on episode 96. We're still trying to cook up an idea for episode 100, so please jump over to the Discord, hashtag podcast-questions, and send us some recommendations. We'd love to have some past guests on. We'd love to have a Blizzard employee on, but we don't know how feasible that is in like 4 weeks to get that going with all of the BlizzCon prep for them. So we'll see what we can do. If you guys can connect us, please let us know. Hit us in the DMs, my dudes, my girls. We'll see you guys next week. Don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. We'll see you for episode 97. Bye.
Adios.
I'm sorry, Bob. Or Bot doesn't like you very much.
Bob's a bot.
We might have to adjust some settings in the bot. It's too strict. We want the hype.
You can just make him a mod. It'll solve Nightbot yelling at him.
Dan Nightbot.
I have nothing more to teach you. The rest you must learn for yourself.
Thanks again, PvP.
Walk in harmony, my student.
I appreciate it. As usual.
Tears of Norris. Thanks for making it the show.
I'm gonna try to get your Twitch here before.